This is my attempt at explaining the shadows between us. So Alessandra is the second daughter of an earl, and when she was 15, she ended her first love, Hector's, life. Our story starts 3 years after that happens. She's now 18, and a boy named Myron proposes to her. And then her dad shows up and he lets her know that her sister is getting married, so now it's her turn. She's like, great, I'm gonna marry the king, the Shadow King. And her dad's like, yeah, okay, sure. So her plan is to seduce the king, get him to propose to her, and then when they get married, she's gonna end his life as well and become queen. She shows up to the castle wearing all black, and her father's upset because the king's favorite color is green. Instead of lining up with all the other girls to be introduced to the king, she decides to go to the ballroom and dance with her dad. She gets attention from everyone because of her tight-fitting, pant-clad legs. I wasn't sure what that meant at first, so I had to Google it, and yeah, pretty interesting. I think she's wearing a skirt on top of these pants, so I guess it must be like a short skirt since everyone can see her legs. Anyways, everyone's staring, including the king, but she ignores him. And then he comes up to her and they dance, and everyone's in shock because the Shadow King doesn't dance or talk to anyone. They have a conversation and the Shadow King's like, wow, you're cool, so you should stay at court. At court, Alessandra thinks all the ladies are dressed so badly and they need to take some fashion advice from her. This guy named Lord Vasco from the Shadow King's Council of Advisors shows up and they judge her because a few men at court know her. So she just walks up to some random girls and befriends them, Hestia and Rhoda, and they turn out to be pretty cool, so she's actually friends with them. And then she meets a guy named Leandros, who's Vasco's nephew, and she thinks he's very handsome. So the night the Shadow King's parents died, everyone who's at court right now was there, so he's commanded them to stay there until he finds out who killed his parents. Myron shows up to Alessandra's room, so he's pissed, and then she threatens him and she's like, hey, if you ever tell anyone about our time together, I will tell your father that you gambled all his possessions away. And then she meets the dude named Oren. So, he's talking to her about how much charity work he's done, and she's like, wow, that is disgusting. And then she makes some more friends, these two guys named Petros and Ruben, who are friends with Leandros. Yeah. Ruben is also engaged to some girl named Melita, and he didn't realize he was engaged to her until after his father made the deal. So, he hates her. He doesn't like being engaged to her, but he has no choice. Vasco is still very suspicious of Alessandra, so, he's just keeping an eye on her. And then Alessandra invites Callias to go to a play, and he's like, I'm sorry, I can't because there's a bandit on the loose, and he's attacking nobles and giving them money to the poor. And Alessandra cannot comprehend this. She's like, why would anyone steal and not keep it? Alessandra gets a letter from her dad telling her that Oren, the charity lover, wants to marry her, and then her dad also reveals that Hector's dad is doing an investigation to find out what happened to his son, and he might question Alessandra since they were friends. On top of all of this, Alessandra goes back to her room, and guess who's hiding in her closet? Myron. Myron is hiding in her closet, and turns out his father is dead, so Alessandra can't blackmail him anymore. Myron wants to use Alessandra to make powerful friends so he can pay off his debts, and Alessandra is forced to hang out with him. She notices Melita looking at Oren, and this gives Alessandra an idea to get rid of both Oren and Myron. Oh, we also find out that the king has an older brother. Leandros tells Alessandra that, and she didn't even know. Oh, and the older brother is dead. Alessandra's dad shows up again to ruin her plans, and he is pissed. He's like, why are you spending time with Myron instead of the king? So Alessandra asks Ruben for $5,000, and in return she's going to get rid of his fiancée Melita. She uses the money to buy Myron's debts, and then shows up to his room while he's sleeping and slaps him. And she's like, I own you now because I bought all your debts, so pack your bags and leave. Alessandra's sister sends her a letter, and apparently she told Hector's dad that Alessandra slept with Hector. We find out that if Callias touches someone skin to skin, then his shadow powers won't work in their presence, so anyone can just kill him. Callias and Alessandra go for a picnic. They decide to swim in the lake, and the bandit attacks. And he's like, hey, this is a lot of food for you guys. I think I'm going to take the rest of it to give to the poor people. So obviously that pisses Callias and Alessandra off. Back to her plan of getting rid of Oren and Myron. So she has Petros write a fake love letter from Oren to Melita, and then she sneaks into Oren's room with Callias to get a seal for the letter, and she finds something very interesting. Very, very interesting. Oren is upset with Alessandra for being with the king. Not sure why, because, they're not together. And the king told everyone he was courting her, so, he should have known. And then Alessandra apologizes and she's like, hey, I'm sorry, could you go with me to Melita's rooms? She's sick and I want to give her these flowers. Oren says yes. And she's like, hey, take these flowers and you go first. I'll follow you in. As Oren goes in, Alessandra runs off. And then Ruben and his dad walk into Melita's rooms and they see Melita throwing herself at Oren and kissing him because she thought he sent her the love letter. Ruben's dad is pissed and he cancels the engagement. Alessandra goes to dinner with Callias and the thing she found in Oren's room was the mask of the bandit, so Oren is the bandit. Oren is thrown into jail and so are the peasants that he gave the money to for some reason. Alessandra receives a note. Someone knows who's trying to kill the king and they want to meet Alessandra to help. She shows Callias the note. They both dress up. Alessandra puts on a blonde wig and Callias puts on a light brown wig and a fake beard which makes him look like Leandros. Alessandra sneaks into the club through a back door and there's just some little girl staring at her.
Hear the roar.
And then someone pushes Callias and Alessandra. A bunch of people fall and Callias' shadow powers stop working. Whoever sent the letter knew that touching Callias would cause him to lose his shadow powers. Alessandra finally remembers her plan of killing the king and decides to go buy some herbs to make a poison. Callias tells Alessandra he wants to marry her, but then just as that happens, stupid Hector's dad shows up. They know he was murdered, he was stabbed. Well, they know it's Alessandra who killed him because her sister told Hector's dad that Alessandra carries a knife. And so Alessandra's worried. She's like, what's Callias gonna do to me? Callias tells Hector's dad to go home and then he just laughs. And he's like, great job, Alessandra, marry me. Alessandra throws a ball and her stupid dad shows up and he's like, everyone's talking about how you killed Hector, but don't worry, I'm gonna set you up with Ruben so you can have a quick marriage and get past this scandal. And she's like, dude, I'm gonna marry the Shadow King. And her dad's like, yeah, right, sure, but anyways, you and Ruben and you guys will have a lovely marriage and it will all be great. Alessandra calls the guards and has her dad removed from the party. Callias proposes. Vasco proposes a toast and has everyone's cups filled. Just then, Alessandra spots a girl. The same girl that she saw in the gentleman's club. And then after Callias takes a sip, he falls and she realizes the girl touched him. The kid reveals that it was Lord Vasco. Alessandra gets arrested because they find poison in her closet. The same poison that was used in the king's drink. And she's like, yeah, I did want to kill you, but now I don't because I love you. And he's like, get out of here. So she's packing her bags and she sees Leandros and she kisses him for some reason. As she's riding in the carriage, she realizes she has hair dye in her hands and it's from Leandros' hair, but why would he be dyeing his hair? And then she realizes Leandros is actually Callias' brother who is supposed to be dead, and she realizes he's trying to kill Callias. Leandros also killed the king and queen, so that's that mystery solved. Alessandra kills Leandros, they make up, the end.